You were one of a few people from North America to study with a very famous chiropractor, Henry Gillet, in Belgium. Can you tell us more about that?
Henry Gillet was the father of motion palpation, which is the movement analysis. And chiropractors and osteopaths have always done motion palpation, but he systematized it. So he developed the actual normal mechanics of movement and then went from there. Whereas no one to that point had ever studied the normal motions. And Gillet actually learned from a doctor named Illy in Switzerland. Illy was the first chiropractor to do motion studies, who actually did cinerenkinology, which is a movement x-ray of people's pelvises, where they're on a treadmill, and then he would x-ray them in motion, and then he could tell what the motions of the pelvic joints were normally, and then what happened when there was an abnormal motion and what the compensations were to that. So Gillet watched Illy work and said, you know, we don't need x-ray to do this if we know what the normal motions are. So we can just position ourselves to feel these joints and put the patient into certain motions and to see if the joint moves. If it does, that's a normal motion. That's what it's supposed to do. So Gillet kind of categorized normal motions, compensations from abnormal motions, what the pelvis actually did when you walked. So he was very, very front line of spinal analysis. He was also front line in thinking of function rather than bone position. So he was always at war with B.J. Palmer, who was the big bone out of place man. And most of the bone out of place people did not like Henry Gillet because he was ruining their paradigm. And he said it's not a positional problem, it's a functional problem in the joint. And when you adjust a joint, you're not restoring a bone's motion. I mean, you're not restoring a bone's position, you're restoring the movement pattern of that joint.
Right.
So Gillet's father was the first chiropractor in Belgium. And then Henry was the son. And Henry got actually very disappointed with chiropractic because it was so unscientific at that point. So he stopped being a chiro. And his brother was a chiro also. And the brother said, look, just go study science. Go see what's out there, what chiropractic is actually doing, because it's obviously working, even though the model is incorrect. So Dr. Gillet went out and he studied for a couple of years, and then he came back, and his whole goal was to make chiropractic scientific. That's how he developed all the analysis and published and did this and that. So for 40 years, he took care of business in the research arena. He was also the founder of the European Chiropractic Union, and he was the first, who started the European Chiropractic Journal. So he was huge. Most people in the United States don't know much about him because they're all into bone out of place. They don't want to read other alternative literature. But Gillet actually was instrumental in changing the bone out of place paradigm to functional movement. So that's his power.